Right now at 5, breaking news, an explosion in Silver Spring.
The moment of the blast caught on camera, an apartment building reduced to rubble. Several people seriously hurt.
Tonight, the investigation and the question, how did this happen?
And the lessons learned from an explosion just 6 years ago.
WUSA9 is on the ground with live team coverage and context right now. And right now, there are still people unaccounted for after an explosion and fire at this Silver Spring apartment complex. Take a look at these live pictures right now from Sky 9. Most of an entire building gone. This is what remains of the Friendly Garden Apartments in Silver Spring tonight. Compare that with around 10 o'clock this morning when that explosion happened. Look at that. And just a warning, you can hear someone screaming in the background. The explosion rocks the camera and you can almost feel that force as you watch it. That blast sparked a massive fire that engulfed the entire structure in flames you can see right there. Dozens of residents forced to evacuate both that building and the surrounding neighborhood on Littonsville Road just off 16th Street. Thank you for being here with us at 5. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
And I'm Charlotte McBride. We've been following this breaking news story all day, and right now we know 10 people were hurt in the explosion and fire. 3 people are in serious condition. Dozens of others have lost everything and are left in utter shock. Our team is covering this from all angles, trying to understand what led to this explosion, and we're getting reaction from the community tonight. Adam Longo is heading up our coverage on Littonsville Road. And Adam, this community is just heartbroken tonight.
Absolutely, Charlotte. I mean, neighbors here are shocked. They're stunned. They're traumatized. They stood here just with us right behind the crime scene tape here for a good 2 to 3 hours, just sort of staring blankly at this scene, unable, frankly, to process what they were seeing and what was going on. Had a chance to talk to several people who live near here who jumped out as soon as they heard what had happened, and they both described it to me the same way. They said it was this just massive boom, and it felt like an earthquake. One man I talked to lives in an apartment complex that's a 9-story apartment complex on the other side of where we are here, and his apartment building faces away on the other side of where this happened, and he said the entire building just shook. Let me bring you up to speed, though, on what really is the most pressing thing that we need to focus in on right now. And that's the information that we got from the Montgomery County Fire Chief here at his press conference here just a few hours ago, saying that there are still several people unaccounted for. Now, we don't know if that means they haven't been able to reach people on the phone, somebody's out of town, or if, God forbid, there could still be somebody possibly trapped underneath all of this rubble that remains. We'll take you to some video here of one of the fire department canines going through this scene just a couple of hours ago. About 2:30 is when this happened. And then at the news conference, we asked the fire chief, and I asked him, what about the dogs? Did they hit on anything? And this is a quote. He said that there were possible indications of alerts, and then they needed to make more steps so the fire department could get in there more closely because it wasn't safe for them to dig around. So then let me take you to another piece of video. The final standing wall of that final apartment building came down just within the past hour, and the chief said after that took place, that's where they could go in and just sort of comb through that debris a little more thoroughly to see if there was anybody behind. But I can tell you here, there does not appear to be any sense of urgency or expediency by the part of the fire department crews who are here, which would seem to indicate that they do not believe that there is anybody there. But we're in close contact with them, and we'll find out more as we move throughout the evening. I want to check in now. Just across the corner from here is WUSA9's Tom Dempsey, and he's going to help us break down more of a timeline of how all of this unfolded this morning. Tom, good evening. The people, the 100 people who are being displaced after this explosion and tragedy. There are 2 community centers, the Gwendolyn Caulfield and Wheaton Rec Center, that are right now helping the victims and all of those people who have been displaced. Our Colby Satterfield is live covering that part of the story. Colby, can you talk about the efforts that are being given to these folks to help out? All right, Colby Satterfield, thank you. It's such an important component of this story. We heard from the county executive earlier today that this is low-income housing, these apartments here. So these aren't people who can just pop up from this spot and go to settle someplace else. These are people who are going to need long-term assistance for some time until they're able to find another place to live. Wanted to get some perspective on the folks who were living here and find out more about them. We were able to find that out from the Montgomery County Council President, Gabe Albornoz, just a couple of hours ago at this news conference. So I want you to picture this. He told us that somebody who actually works for the Montgomery County Council lives inside of that main building that suffered the brunt of the explosion. She was at work when they got the call. Everybody's okay. Everyone that you know is out and okay. but basically your apartment is exploded and everything is destroyed. And he talked about some of the emotion and the pain of that. Listen, we're plugged in with the Montgomery County fire officials here. We're still waiting to get some answers on the unaccounted for. That's the latest information we have, that several people are unaccounted for. We're hoping that we can clear that for you soon, but fire crews still here. It's still smoldering. There's still a pretty thick, heavy scent of smoke in the air, as there's been throughout the afternoon. But we're going to be coming back here with you at 5:30 to get you updated more on some of the victims' conditions and some of the other things that are unfolding here at the scene. Charlotte, Zoe?
Yeah, you know, Adam, looking at that blast there and listening to so many people who had to deal with this throughout the morning, I also think it's pretty remarkable that we're not talking about fatalities at this moment. I know that the search continues for those who are unaccounted for, but hopefully it remains this way. Adam, thank you so much.
Absolutely heartbreaking, and we will continue to watch this breaking story unfold. Coming up at 5:30, as Adam just mentioned, we will have another live report with an update on some of the people rushed to a hospital. Plus, we're looking back at the lessons learned from a similar explosion that happened in Silver Spring just 6 years ago.
Yeah, we're thinking of all those families tonight. And to get updates anytime, make sure you have our WUSA9 app on your phone, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, or just go on over to our website, WUSA9.com.
The building was on fire, everything crumbled.
Your whole life is just pancaked and is rubble.
The water that's being used from this fire just pouring past that children's bicycle.
I rushed over here as fast as I could to make sure my grandma was okay.
The news at 5:30 starts with breaking news we've been on top of all day. Montgomery County fires say 3 people are seriously hurt, some still unaccounted for after a fire and explosion at an apartment complex. We're also told 10 people were taken to a hospital.
Yeah, Sky 9 over the Friendly Garden Apartments on Littonsville Road in Silver Spring. We're told by fire crews this all began between 10 and 10:30 this morning. That community is home to dozens of families. All right, Adam Longo is live at the scene tonight. And Adam, I can't help but think of these families who started their day as usual, perhaps leaving out for work, others maybe doing work at home, and then it ends with this. Such a catastrophic loss.
Yeah, and so many of these families, Lorenzo, are going to need so much help, not just today, not just tomorrow, but in the weeks and months ahead. These apartments here are affordable housing that is not readily available in Montgomery County. So it's not like these people can just pop up, move over to a different place. It's going to take some time for them to get back on their feet. There are 100 people roughly who are displaced from these several different apartment buildings as a result of what's unfolded here tonight. We know that several people are still unaccounted for, and as you mentioned, still several people in the hospital. We are covering this story from all angles tonight. Our WUSA9 reporter Evan Kozlov talks to a man who was at the Flower Branch apartment complex in Silver Spring in 2016. There was a massive natural gas explosion there in 2016 that killed 7 people. Larry Miller is also on the scene. Actually, he's back at the station, but he talked to somebody who was here on the scene, a witness who jumped into action right after this explosion and fire. First, though, we're going to check in with WUSA9's Scott Broom. He is at MedStar Hospital in Washington in Northwest, where, Scott, we understand 3 people who were involved in this explosion are being treated there at the burn center. We're going to need those answers, and we are going to need them soon. Larry Miller, thank you. Now, maybe in all of this coverage that you've been seeing today, you've been asking yourself, you've been wondering, how can I help? Well, right now we know this. There are 2 different community centers that are open and assisting and helping the residents who were displaced from this area. Now, they don't have any system for donating to those folks there at those parts just yet. Instead, the Montgomery Housing Partnership is actually collecting monetary donations for transportation and for clothing for some of these folks. Here's the call to action. Here's what you got to do. Text the word IMPACT to 202-895-5599. We're going to send a link right to your phone, and we can tell you this. Donations, 100% of them, we're told, will go to the families affected by this tragedy. Now, coming out here to the scene and talking to a lot of the Montgomery County fire officials, a lot of comparisons are being drawn to another massive apartment building explosion that happened 6 years ago in 2016. It was also here in Silver Spring. It was the Flower Branch Apartments. 7 people died in that explosion. More than 70 were injured. There was a lawsuit that was settled with Washington Gas as a result of that. It was just a catastrophic scene. I was on that scene as well. I can tell you there are a lot of similarities. The smell in the air, the look in the eyes of the residents who were just staring blankly at the building, wondering what happened. Our Evan Kozlov had a chance to talk to a man who was there, who lived in that apartment complex during the time of that explosion. Back out to me at the end of Evan's story there, I could hear some heavy equipment. It sounded like saws in the background. Now, what you see over my shoulder, Mike, actually, if you want to just zoom in here real quick, just so you guys can get a better look at the scene of what's happening there. So you don't see any fire crews, you don't see anybody up there, but this apartment building, or what's left of it, does sort of wrap around to the right there. Now, the fire chief told us earlier that a canine dog did get indicators of possible alerts, but I think that they're working at this point trying to find out if there are people that just have not checked in with family members or loved ones, but they are still painstakingly combing through all of this debris, just making absolutely sure that there isn't anyone left there, and they're going to continue that work until they say that they're absolutely sure that there isn't anyone else there. We'll be back here live at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock with the very latest updates, hoping to get you more updates on the conditions of the folks who are involved here as well. Charla, Zoe.
And we are all just hoping for the best as we see those dogs back there and looking in that rubble, hoping for the best tonight.
And trying to figure out the why as well.
All right, thanks so much, Adam. Well, coming up on the news at 6, we're going a step further by taking a look at county inspections records to get an insight of potential issues with the building there.